Okay, let's pause. Hi there, and welcome to the Parent Advocate Network, Miss Lucy. I'm happy to see you have joined in tonight. You're the first member to join tonight. And then we have Nish coming in. Everybody is muted upon entry. Tonight's meeting is about to begin, and I want to welcome everybody tonight to the meeting. Usually what we do at the beginning of our meetings is have every member introduce themselves. 5 minutes is the longest that each person has for introductions, and then from there we have multiple discussions. We can talk about all kinds of different family rights issues here, and a lot of what we do is talk about ways we can maintain our rights as parents and as citizens of this country and the world. So thank you all for joining tonight. Ms. Lucy, I'm going to unmute you. Would you like to introduce yourself? Hello? You might want to check down. There's the bar at the bottom of your Zoom page that will give you an option to increase the volume. Make sure that your volume is the same. Okay. As the system, I believe. Same as the system. And audio options, you can also click on audio options to see what other options are available for your microphone. So I cannot hear you, and I want to give Nij a chance here. Good evening, Nij. How are you? Oh, Miss Lucy's got it. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Wonderful.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and how about you?
I'm wonderful.
Well, I'm happy that you are able to join us tonight, and we are expecting other members to join shortly. Well, would you like to introduce yourself? Let us know a little bit about who you are and what's going on.
Yes, my name is Miss Lucy. I'm from Michigan. I have a case where my son was bullied in school, and I had the school send him to the hospital because I was like a few minutes away too far. And once I got to the hospital, the social worker told me that they were calling CPS on me because it was their policy. So next thing I know, they came to get my other children as well that didn't have anything to do with the case, and they built a false case against me, and it's been going for almost 2 years now.
Are you still able to see your children?
Yes, I have one that I'm not
One.
able. Yes,
Oh, no.
I have one that I have to go and see because they started medicating him. So, but I have 3 that's with my mom. A daughter that's in another facility. They say she's doing very well. She's been getting good reports, but they won't release her to my mom at all. It's like they're giving me the runaround. And of course, Michigan, I've been told is the guard dog state, so it's like one of the hardest states in the world. So, I mean, it's tough, but I haven't given up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up. And I hope that you continue to find more resources to continue your fight for your children, for your son especially. And I hope that everything works out very soon.
Well, I appreciate that so much.
we're helping as many parents as we can. This network is to assist, and so after introductions have been completed, we can talk a little more about some actions that you could take that you may not have already known about.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so
Yes, I surely appreciate that.
and now I would like to mute you, Miss Lucy, and give Nij the chance to speak. Welcome. Here, let me unmute you. Oh, I can't unmute you. Hold on. We're keeping everybody muted until, okay. Is there a way that I can, oh, oh, there
Okay.
you are. You made it. Great.
Right. Testing.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Anybody
Hi,
hear me?
everybody. Hello. Nij is going to introduce herself, Dale, and then it'll be your chance to say hello. Everybody's getting a little bit of an introduction time. We have people joining in as we are continuing to talk. So you have the floor, Nij.
Sure. I had submitted complaint against the Judiciary Commission in Maryland, and they denied it. But I'm still working on because I requested them to give me some time. So they gave me another 3 weeks to resubmit with new additions. And meantime, I talked to John Gentry, then Chris Hollett, Kirk, Ted, Jay, and Fernando. Everybody, and there are 2 other female advocates who helped me. I forgot their name. I think they are from Midwest. So everybody put something, and I'm working on right now. So sharing with Miss Lucy. Lucy, we understand initially I was also very naive and scared, but remember, as long as you are focused and you know that you are honest and truth, it always prevails, no matter what. So work on it, work on your paper. Everywhere you will get denial. I got so many denial. I never got any approval, but I'm not going to give up until I get my house back. I don't know I get it or not, but that's my goal. At least it will not be sold under the price, and I'm trying my best that either I get it or the proceeds comes to me as a marital share. Everything is done from my angle, but I still have a hope because I'm honest and the truth prevails. So everybody please join. I mean, we are doing the group work. I mean, it's nothing hidden from anybody. Whatever I file, share. Well, I ask everybody personal message. So many, I think I did 20 messages to different people last Thursday. I need help, I need help. And out of that, I got 8 help. Others are not there, so they cannot share with me. So anybody has anything, always PM or share with Lyra. Shaira knows many other things, what's happening. And let's jump in. We all have to, I like John Gentry's idea where he suggested that we fight for our state. If I fight for Maryland, Lyra fights for California, Miss Lucy fights for her state. Indirectly, we all are USA. So we are combining 50 states and we are putting 50 petition with DOJ. That's the goal for all of us. So whoever is interested, share with Lyra and we can go from there.
Thank you, Nij. And it's Lyra. My name is pronounced Lyra. And
Lyra. Okay.
yes. And I appreciate you speaking about transparency because, you know, right now we see a lot of the moles in the family rights movement who are not transparent. And when we learn new information, it is very disheartening to find that some people are not who they appear to be.
Correct.
But we here are completely transparent, and we want all parent advocates to be transparent. It's when we work combined together and are honest and have integrity that we shall win.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Dale, you're up now.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dale Blome, and I'm an outreach worker for a church group of the UFK. And basically, our mission is to feed the hungry and house the homeless and build individuals, families, and communities. And in short, so my relationship with Families for Coalition is to as a preventive measure, create a habitat and structure so these families that are under stress and at risk of being intervened with by children's services have a place where they can restore themselves to fullness. And so that's I'm working as a support system, and in the process of connecting with these organizations and people who are interested in building habitat and building what you call a structure or a program for those families to make themselves sufficient and healthy.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dale. And the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families and UFC are working very hard to put some programs together in the state of California right now, and we hope to expand from there once we have a fully operational system. And thank you so much for your support, Dale. We now have Laurissa. She has joined in, and then there's a phone caller after that. If that phone caller would be able to speak, but let's first have Laurissa join us and introduce herself. Here, let me unmute
Can y'all
you.
hear me? Okay, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, everyone. Sorry I couldn't make last week's meeting. Can y'all still hear me? I can't hear anything. Y'all good? Okay, all right. My name is Laurissa. Well, it's a lot of things I could say about me, but I have a lot of experience working in the legal or the child welfare system. We work to, since my transition, I worked extremely hard to help transform or reform the system to get back to the service that it needs to get back to. I specifically advocate in the interest of the parents. I help those who are disadvantaged. I help them with coaching strategies. I help them with innovative solutions or ideas to help them get documentation like they need, or evidence, or evidence-based research, the theoretical aspect of it, so that they understand more on what goes on behind the scenes, and they can prepare their defense, or build their case. So it's just a large frame of services that I do, that's kind of hard to explain. Next time I write it all out, y'all. But yes, ma'am, I'm glad to be here tonight. I do tons and tons of research. Since being on this side, there's a lot of social workers who don't take the time to come out and see how their behavior or decisions or their job has really affected so many parents and so many lives, and even the children that they claim to be doing this in the interest of are suffering. So my program is called Matters of Life. It's a coaching program, and I pretty much combine every skill that I have to to teach and advocate for reform in the child welfare system. But it's definitely in the interest of parents. I believe you can't really serve two interests. If it's the family in the court system or the social workers, they're all designed to represent the child's best interest, but no one is representing the parents' best interest like it should be. So I want that to change. I don't want parents to become instinct, because We got a justice system that, supposed to be blind, or supposed to be built on love, or supposed to be built on truth and justice. They're failing they're not only failing the kids, but they're failing the parents, and they failing our society. So.
Thank you, Laurissa.
Thank you.
I believe Randall has joined us tonight, and so I would like to give him the floor. I believe I need to unmute him because he is on a phone. So hold on. Hello.
Hello, ma'am. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, and welcome to the Parent Advocate Network. I'm glad that you could join us tonight.
Well, I'm here with open ears. This is the first time on the call, and I'm just more or less listening. Randall has posted, I think I started posting in 2011 different laws and things that I've studied, and we posted, I think, around the same time, and he is sure full of information. So I just got on the call to see what I could learn at this time. Nobody knows all the law, and I'm trying to get educated in what I don't know. So I'm just a bystander. I don't have much to offer other than what I've already studied, and I don't know if that's any help to anyone or not. But I'm just here listening right now and trying to absorb what I can.
Thank you for joining us, Randall, and you are welcome to share your knowledge here. This is the Parent Advocate Network is about sharing and talking about ways in which we can collectively fight against the crimes against humanity that everybody is experiencing right now.
I understand that dearly. I just did in my situation, I ran into so many block walls. State of Georgia is really, really bad off in corruption, and I'm not going to downgrade anybody at this time or what have you, and that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to learn what I can, and maybe if I have something I can share in between, then maybe then I can do that, but that's what I'm here for.
Great. Wonderful. Well, we have one more participant tonight who's joining us, and Maria, I'd like you to please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your situation. Oh, there's Dawn. Hi, Dawn.
Unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, Maria, you can hear me now, Lyra?
I can.
Sorry, my signal's not the greatest out here.
Oh my. You're cutting out an awful lot.
I'm along there with, can you hear me? It's real spotty, so it really stinks. I hear you clear as day, though.
Okay. Well, you're coming in better now. Maybe you got to the better location.
I must have turned like my arm or something. Anyways, I'm one of the parents who also have had my children illegally stolen via DCF. I'm in Florida, and I'm fighting for parent rights and fights that they do. I'm learning slowly, like everybody. I'm learning pretty quickly, not as fastly as I'd like to, but how to fight the system. And we make the mistake of being defensive and going through it and jumping through all the hoops that they want us to do, thinking we're going to get our kids back. And that's not how you get your kids back. What you do is you assert your rights and how they violated your rights. And there is restitution for this.
Yes, there is, and you're cutting again. I'm sorry.
But I'm moving for civil rights kind of suits, and trying to take down, and I'm not trying to make this about money. Of course, that's the truth. Whenever you're trying to do something right, the devil's always against you. That's okay if you have to mute me, dear. Are you there, Lyra?
I am. I just.
I wish I could.
Well, please stay on board. I mean, if you can hear what's going on, and we also have the message board. If you're able to leave a message on the message board, and I can definitely relay it to the group. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have another member who's just joined us, Dawn Rufty. Welcome to the Parent Advocate Network.
Thank you. Yes, a pleasure. Okay.
Oh, you got frozen there, Dawn. Oh my. Did everybody get frozen? Am I the one that's frozen? That happens sometimes. Let me check.
Indicted and prosecuted for none of those crimes because they're being protected by the judges over them, the state judges. The state courts, I believe, in every state are absolutely crooked. They're just plain old crooks, and they're not going to do the right thing because they're making tons of money for doing the wrong thing. So, and they don't care about the grief that they're causing people. They don't care about causing people to become penniless or homeless or to commit suicide or the children commit suicide. They don't care. They're getting the money. That's all they seem to care about. They care nothing about justice.
So Dawn, would you like to tell us a little bit about your background? Because this is really the introduction for parent advocates to know and familiarize themselves with each of it.
Okay. Well, actually, I think it was Niutti that asked me about that a couple of years ago, and I just wrote it up. I thought, well, somebody else is going to ask me about it from time to time, so I might as well just write it up. But I can just tell you, it's just off the top of my head, essentially what that says. Okay, January 9th, 1995, my kid's mom decided to divorce me, and so I went to court. And I had hired a lawyer to represent me that day because, people I knew said, you better hire a lawyer, you're going to get crucified otherwise. Of course, I didn't know at the time you get crucified anyway, whether you have a lawyer or not. And so at the beginning, the judge was not on the bench. She was in the back room. I found out later what was going on, but he was in the back room. I made filed a complaint with the Mecklenburg County Bar Association, and a guy went there and sung like a bird. That's the first time I heard what was going on. But anyway, the first time I saw the judge, he came out and sat on the bench and basically said, okay, Mr. Rufty, I'm kicking you out of your house. You have 7 days to get out. Mrs. Rufty has a three-party check for $2,500 made out to you, her, and a landscaping company. Just go ahead and sign that over to you. To her, send that over to her. Next case. That was it. And so, and then subsequently, I was ordered to pay because he wound up giving the house to the kid, to her, the kids to her, and my income to her. And it was ordered to pay child support equal to approximately 200% of my total gross income before taxes, which is very inconvenient financially. And so, anyway, I published a local newspaper, had for over 20 years at that time, and did publish it for over 41 years, so about 3 years ago, and I just shut it down. But I was a home teacher in my church for a couple of single guys, so I called them up. I was at my office that night thinking I had to find a place to live. So one of them said, okay, I have a 2-bedroom apartment. I'm just using 1 bedroom as an office. I'll move my stuff out and rent that to you. And I said, great. All right. So then I was just sitting on the couch one day and I was just thinking, this is absolutely bizarre. How could something like this happen in the United States of America? And so then I'm a religious person. And the thought came to me, well, maybe you're not the only person this ever happened to. Well, I didn't know. I mean, I knew a few people got divorced, but I didn't know any of the details or anything like that. So I said, okay, all right, well, I'm going to find out. So the front of my paper was always, the paper had a very unusual format. It looked like when you picked it up in a supermarket or a restaurant, it looked like a magazine size paper. But then if you turned that front page, it opened up into a tabloid. But on the front page, it just had the masthead, Carolina Nickel. Underneath that, it had 3 columns of classified type ads. So I put a classified type ad right in the middle of the middle column, said, if your rights have been violated by a local judge in divorce court, call this number. So I put my roommate's answer machine in it. Boom, here come the calls. Boy, they just come streaming in. And I thought, no, I'm not the only person this happened to. There's probably other people in the same apartment building and the next building over and one up in the other direction, up and down the street. They're all over Mecklenburg County, which incidentally is an extremely big population area. It used to be the 5th biggest population center in the country. And it's, you know, so it was big. And so, so my purpose was to create, and see, in those days, it's changed. Now it's more of an equal opportunity racket. They rip off the men, they rip off the women, and of course they crucify the children too. So they suck it to everybody. But in those days, it was basically the guys that got ripped off, the fathers. And so I created a father's rights community in Mecklenburg County. And, you know, one of the guys called in was really sharp about the law, and I thought, well, he'd probably be a good leader of the group. I had no interest in leading the group. I only wanted to create the group. Then another guy called in, was really sharp about the law, who's a paralegal. So I put those 2 guys together as the leaders of the group. And so the guy that was a paralegal, you know, had computers and law books all over his house. And so they were camping out with the law every night. And I was going down to the law library and doing research in public library. We dug up a lot of interesting law that was very pertinent and very damaging to the racket. I'd publish all that stuff in my paper. And I wound up with 5 judges in my case before it was over with. Every one of them violated my rights except for the last one, Jane Harper, who had the reputation of being the ringleader of crooked judges. And that is exactly what was said in my paper. And I think if whenever they would violate my rights, I'd write all about it. I would publish the laws they were breaking, the crimes they were committing, and I would give an estimate as about how long they should go to prison for their crimes, which apparently they found quite embarrassing because we had a very big circulation. And so basically between the ages of 30 and 60, which is the influential people in any population. And so that's the reason they kept going from one judge to the other. It ended for me forever in 1997. So although I'm active in this movement, I do not have this problem that probably at least 98% of the people in the movement have. I haven't had it for over 20 years. And so, so I am spending 60 to 80 hours a week, 70, 80 hours a week on behalf of the movement. Even though it is not adversely affecting me, it is adversely affecting my fellow man and my country. And I know that's what you're about, Lyra. You want to redeem America. Okay?
Yes, I do. And thank you, Don. I want you to
wait.
Go for it. Okay.
Okay. So now it ended for me in 1997, but I kept on writing. I think Jane Harper just told the rest of them, so look, just give him what he wants, and he will shut up. But that didn't happen because I was never writing just for myself.
Right.
And so by around the year 2000, the entire divorce courts in Mecklenburg County changed 180 degrees. They went from a cesspool of judicial corruption to a paragon of judicial virtue. Out of 100 counties in North Carolina, they are the only one that is straight. All the rest of them are just as crooked. The other 99 just as crooked as Mecklenburg used to be. And of course, that was great for the people in Mecklenburg County because it's probably spared thousands of people from the destruction that would have been inflicted upon them. But that's only one county in one state.
Yes.
And so what my desire is to put the family court racket out of business. And I believe that we can do that
by collectively demanding the use of U.S. Code Title 18, Section 242. They're committing crimes, and we need to collectively demand that. If we get on the same page, we can get about anything we want in this country. There's still enough freedom left in this country that when the people mass together, they get just about whatever they want.
What I'm showing here on this page actually comes from the legal library itself, and Fernando was the one who originally shared it. This is the authority of fines or damages caused by crimes by government officers. These damages were determined by government itself for the violations listed. And this can be found on the website at the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families. I have provided the link in our discussion here, and and if anybody wants to know any more about that, we have parent advocates all over the country that know the law and can help you understand it better. So thank you, Dawn, for all of the work you have done, and keep on doing it. We have one more member who has joined tonight, and I would like to give Thomas a chance to introduce himself. Every member gets a 5-minute introduction, and then we can go into a discussion of ways to resolve this issue. Thomas, you're up. Up. Hello. Hello there. Welcome.
Hi, Lyra.
Welcome.
Hi, Lyra. Hi, Lyra.
Hi, welcome. And so, Thomas, you're in California, right?
No, Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania. Oh, that's right. We have parents all over the place.
Yeah, I know. It's just great. Hey, I kind of didn't realize we had a meeting today, and I saw it and I hopped in, so I kind of caught a little bit late of everything. But I caught it. I did. Thank God I realized it. My name's Thomas, and I have, like I said, I was in the system. So when I was a child, I know the crap that they like to pull. I know their games. I opted out at 18 years old. But I'll tell you what, they tried like heck to keep me in the system until I was 21. Being in the system and being told that I was a troubled child and all that when I was a straight A student, just so they can get more funding, and seeing a foster parent, maybe one of the very, 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 and I mean very rare good foster parents and do what's in the best interest of the children. I did happen to get that after being placed in a matter of 4 years in 6 foster homes and 1 group home. And with one of the good ones, the one good one that I had, actually asked to adopt me, but the CPS in the state wouldn't allow them to do that because it was funding if they kept me labeled as a troubled child. They actually made it to the point where he did. When he did, they told him if he wanted me, he would have to adopt me. And when he pursued to go on with everything, they actually threatened him and his family that if he kept going, they were going to come after him and his family. That was before I opted out at 18. I thought they think that I was going to stay in the system so they would get more funding. And I never found out about him being threatened or none of this until 3 years ago when he contacted me again through Facebook and told me about all of that. And now, after 6 years, I have 3 kids, 9, 8, and gonna be 3. Had custody of my children for, well, my youngest, my oldest, my daughter, for 6 years. Lived in Colombia, I moved over to Luzerne temporarily because I had my house caught fire in Columbia. So I moved to Luzerne to be a normal parent and actually make sure my kids had a roof over their head. Luzerne stepped in, come to my house one day. I was at work. I got a call from my soon-to-be ex-wife telling me that Children and Youth was there. And I told her, I said, okay, tell them, don't let them in my house. Just tell them to hold on. I'll be right there. I'm only 5 minutes away from work. I'll come and talk to them. I got there. They demanded to see my child. And they told me because my daughter had been shot with a paintball gun is what their allegation was. And I told them, no, they weren't seeing my daughter. My daughter was 6 years old at the time. This was 2014. It was 12 o'clock during the day. And if anybody has a little, which I'm sure everybody on this call already knows what's wrong with this picture, 12 o'clock during the day, 6 years old, she probably should be in school. So instead of, and I didn't tell them that because they should know this is representing the best interest of the children. They should know this shit. They have no problem going to any kids at school and seeing them at school and questioning them behind their back. So why the heck didn't they know this? So because I told them no, the woman called her supervisor, and the supervisor got on the phone with, wanted to talk to me, and I said, listen, I have nothing to say to you guys. I said, you can come back at 3:30 and talk to my child. That's fine. Because she would have been out of school. I would have been done with work. 8:30 that night, they came to my house with a search warrant to take him, said I wasn't cooperating. But here's the thing. I don't know if anybody heard of Chivarella and Cunningham out of Luzerne County, the Cash for Kids scandal. That is the county I was against. That's the county I'm still against, which is a closed case, but yet they still oversee my case. So figure that out. Ever since I started fighting all of it, every worker that has been involved with my case, including the main people, have all resigned, have all quit. Because the woman looked at me and told me right to my face, I was too young to be a child. And that pissed me right off because I don't know who she thought she was or how she knew me, but I told her right to her face, I said, don't forget my face. I said, that comment, I'm going to get your ass on that one. She told me I was fighting a system I was never going to win. I looked her right at the face and said, now you're not wanted here. I said, you're done with what you had to do. I said, appreciate you leave, but I said, remember, don't forget my face. I take you up on that challenge. I'll see you in the end. So when they came back that night, they came with a warrant to take my child. Now, here's what I wish I would have paid attention to before when this all happened. But they do this crap so quick to people to get it over people's eyes. And, that's why I tell people, I actually been MIA for about a week, maybe even a little less, because I was dealing with another person here in Pennsylvania that was dealing with them at their door, threatening them. So I've been helping them behind the scenes to keep them off their asses, which we got them off, thank God. But when they came to my house the second time, with the warrant never mentioned what they were at my house prior to that day for. So therefore, the visit prior was harassment.
Yep. So
and then all the allegations that they did have to take my child, we had court within I think the next day. All the allegations were unfound. They had no evidence. But yet, 3 years later, I'm still fighting for my kids.
Great. That is awesome. You keep on fighting. Never give up. No parent should ever give up. I haven't seen my children in over 2 years, and I was completely discriminated against and denied my parental rights, denied services that I had a right to, denied financial aid and housing that I had a right to, and all of that. And, I'm in this boat too, praying for the day when I can bring my children home and we can caress and hug each other again. and be a family. And so I am happy that, you know, we're all here in this fight together, and we're all not giving up and looking for every single opportunity and option out there, not only for our own cases, but to help other parents. I mean, this is what it's about. This is what I started the Parent Advocate Network for, is to provide assistance not only in my own case, but in everybody else's case, because we always constantly are learning new things. There's constantly new information coming out. So I appreciate all of you for joining tonight. And now that we have all introduced ourselves, there's been some questions posted regarding filing charges against judges, and one of the parent advocates that I spoke with earlier in the week told me that we can file charges against judges for perjury. We can also file complaints with the bar in each state, like against judges and attorneys that have failed in their job to perform the duty that they were hired to perform. So these are some of the things that I have learned, and I would love to hear what others have learned.
Lyra, yeah, you can do that. It's, I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's for the judges, it's the judicial board.
It's the judicial, well, it's also the bar, the actual bar, not the judicial board. I went to the judicial board at the beginning of the month, and that's a laughing stock. I'm sorry. It's horrible.
Well, see that's the problem. Some of them, they just look at us and laugh at us, you know. It's just, it's like, you know, we don't mean nothing, you know. That's like, how do we know it's getting to who it's getting to, or, you know, it's not being pushed under, you know, or thrown in the garbage can? Because, you know, I did that multiple times, and I actually had the attorney that I had, after I hired him and paid him almost $30,000 in a year, at the end of my hearing, looked at me and told me he wanted a withdrawal from my case and said that it was too much for him to handle. I looked at him, I said, you know what? You knew what you were getting into before I even hired you, and you agreed upon it. I said, so what'd you do? Just steal my money? Because he did absolutely nothing for me. You know, people sometimes, which, you know, I'm glad now that I got involved with the family network and all that. There's so many resources out there to reach out to. When I did mine, when mine all took place, I had none of that. So I was kind of intimidated, you know, and if anybody saw me before it happened, when it come to police, a judge, you know, I was running with my tail between my legs. You know, not no more. I've had enough of their shit. I've seen enough families hurt. I've seen enough of their bull crap. You know what? I don't care. Take me to jail for saying what I got to say. But you know what? In the end, I'm going to be heard. If I have to go to jail to fight for everybody and them to stop their shit with these kids, fine, I'm going to go to jail doing that. And when the media gets involved and I start running my mouth, if that's the way I got to be heard to help everybody and for us to get somewhere, fine, so be it. That's what I'm going to do. You know what? Which that point is probably going to be coming. So to turn back to the Chivarella and Cunningham ordeal, my brother was a victim of his Cash for Kids scandal. So I follow his case very well. His hearing's coming up for retrial, and I'm making my point to be there. There's going to be enough people that I know, enough people in our network for the movement that's going to be there. And if anybody don't know who I'm referring to, if you want to know, I'll catch you up with them. But they're going to be there. They're going to see what's going to happen. But you know what? That is my day to gonna sing, and that's the day I hope we all get somewhere, because you know what? I am going to press that the media talks to me. And you know what? When they start questioning me about him, I'm gonna blast their ear and say, and I'm gonna bring up everything else with these guys. If that's the way I'm gonna be heard, that's the way we're gonna do it. I have had enough of, everybody being hurt by a system that don't work for us. This system was put here for us, not for these guys to make money off of.
Right. Well, you're right. And I want to give Maria a chance. She keeps getting kicked off, and we got to keep on fighting no matter what and speaking out. Let's, oh no, oh yeah, I got to admit her again. I don't know what's going on, Maria. Are you able to stay on? Here, let me unmute you. Know that you've been trying to stay on the network, and we're supposed to be able to have as many as 100 participants on this Zoom call, so I don't know why it keeps kicking you off. But if you want to unmute yourself and have a comment, or anyone else. Okay.
If you were talking to me, I've been lost.
Well, I'm sorry that you've been lost, Maria. I'm sorry you couldn't get a clear connection. I know that you are on your phone, and it is not the best of connections. Miss Lucy, was there something you wanted to comment on?
Yes. Look, I have done everything that I'm supposed to do. Like, I've completed my parent agency agreement. I completed the majority of it in 2016. And I have not been able to enter any of my evidence or whatever it is onto the court record at all. It's like, I can prove that my whole case has been built on it basically is fraud, false allegations from the start of the school all the way to present. Like, I have recordings where I recorded the CPS worker that first came to my house while my son was in the hospital. I also have a witness when I was talking to the social worker at the hospital. I have audio recordings and text messages, and I've reported everybody, whatever the chain of command is, from the little people all the way to Lansing here. I've even called Washington they told me, their complaint office, that I wasn't able to make a complaint because they're the government. And this is literally what they told me. So I called the governor, and I was also told the same thing. They asked me both, do you realize where you called? Yes, I do. So can I speak to Governor Snyder? And they told me no. So I asked them, where do I go to file a complaint? They really led me nowhere. I've called attorneys out of state just to get some type of advice, and the majority of the attorneys out of state said the same thing about Michigan is a tough state to actually deal with. And the attorneys that's in this state, if they not about money, I mean, they asking prices $5,000, and that's just the start. Who has that? I mean, even if I was rich, like, that's everything. This case has been going on. Now they're dragging into termination of my rights when I've completed everything. So where do we go? I came up with a plan. I don't know, maybe this is something that, because I'm new to the group, I came up with a plan that, if we do a donation, we should go from state to state. As many people that can show up at some of these court hearings and whatever works for one case may work for another. Even if it don't, we trying, but that's how we're gonna be heard. Because if we sit in a courtroom with some of these other, some of the other parents, and we're from different states and we're advocating for them, and we come with our own video equipment to be seen and to be heard, and let them know which state we represent, and we're here to represent this person, this parent that's going through. I mean, that's just my opinion. But I've also contacted the Department of Justice. They're supposed to be doing the investigation. I'm gonna pray about that goes the way I'm hoping and praying it goes. But
Well, don't give up the fight, Miss Lucy. And Thomas, were you wanting to say something? I see that you have unmuted yourself.
Yeah. Miss Lucy, that's who it was. Your situation started similar with mine. Mine had no evidence. Mine had no nothing. One thing I can probably recommend for you is before you, you said you were going to have an investigation done and whatnot. My recommendation for you, before you, let's just say, pissing their Cheerios is a nice way to say it. Do yourself a favor. It's what helped me. Go to your local.
Hello? You got muted. Uh-oh. Hold on, you got muted. Sorry there. I'm sorry, you got there. Go to your local what?
I got cut off, yeah. Go to your local department where it was filed and ask them for a true certified copy of your records before you get them all riled up. Because if you can get that and you find any change, like my case, my original search or warrant for my child, the one they gave me was not legit. There was no judge's signature on it, and it was where the judge's signature went. It said, as per verbal order. No, that's where they mess up on a lot of cases. Make sure that it has a judge's signature on it, and make sure you get the one that they have to stamp it with a true certified copy stamp and their initials that proves that it's legitimate and backs your ass up. Excuse my language, backs your butt up. But it needs to have a judge's signature, which mine did not. Had I known that at the time, I could have kicked them right off the property and told them to get lost. And needs to have a judge's signature, and it has to have a date on it. Mine had none of that. And the one that did claim that had the judge's signature on it, the true certified copy that I got, Children and Youth lawyer signed it.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay.
And Maria also wanted to share a little something. Again, her connection's not very good, but what she wanted to say is that this statute is not a good contract. The judge is acting as an administrative officer. This is administrative law, not executive law, that they're following here. And the family courts are not really legal courts. They're de facto courts. And so Maria wants to just point out that if you have at any point in time signed a contract and with the Department of Children and Family Services, you have a right to revoke your signature from that contract and invoke your parental rights and your citizens' rights, and make sure that when you do that, you write it in a letter form and send it off to every individual that is involved in your case. Also, I would like to add...
Or Lyra.
Mm-hmm.
Is it any way that she can, we're not friends or anything on Facebook, if she can message me so we can talk?
I mean, I'm sure she can. If you are in one of the groups that received a message tonight, then you will be able to connect with her. Maria's last name is... Oh, no, I know several Marias, so please, I do apologize for not having it all right within my grasp here. So then, yeah, it's looking down my list. Maria Phoenix. And I can send you a message from her as well. So yeah, you know, there's a lot of parents out there. Pamela Olson, also from Save Our Children, she's the one that originally shared on the Parent Advocate Network about this revoke and invoke clause that you can do. And we also talk about it. I have a video on the site, the Coalition for Protection. That's coalitionforprotection.com. And she talks about the revoke invoke clause and what you need to do to ensure that you're...
Lyra.
Yes.
Lyra, somebody asked, asked in there about a stamp. Do not, when you go in and ask for anything, do not ask them to stamp a date at all. All you want is the true certified stamp and their initials. Do not ask for a date because they can change it and cover their butt. Do not ask for a date.
All right.
There should be a date when they filed the motion. And if you ask for that stamp, the date, you're going to screw yourself.
So what happens, like Nij here is saying, they gave her ruling with a rubber stamp and the clerk gave it to her, so it wasn't an actual signature, it was a rubber stamp thing. Is that correct, Nij? Okay. And I would say that... So if anybody knows the response to that one... Wait, Nij, you want to talk a little bit? Can you unmute yourself? Hold on. All right, unmuted.
Thank you. Thomas and everybody, in my case, what happened that I was put into contempt, and that attorney calls me, gives me my boxes back, not fully, that now you need a criminal attorney. I had no clue. I find criminal attorney, I'm an associate firm, and they messed me up more. I lost everything, not a single dime at the end of the 27 years of marriage, nothing. So what I did is, on the day of the ruling, the 7th day of the ruling, when I lost everything, in less than the 6th day, I filed the motion for the new trial with the new evidences I wanted to submit. Before that, I fired my attorneys. They did not want to take it, but I pushed it out. They, like, you know, did the table tennis court for me. The attorney sent me to court. Court sent me to attorney. You know, that nobody wanted to take that letter, the motion that I was firing my attorney. So now my attorney is not there. I'm pro se, and I'm putting my motion for the new trial. So far in the docket, there is no final order which my husband's attorney is supposed to type file it, the judge has to sign it, and file it and put it also worse. I have been a translator for my languages in the court system. I have attended many divorce cases where people don't understand English. And in that, I have seen myself, including my county. When you have a ruling order is ready to serve to the both party, the judge invites both the party with one adult person on their side. Judge asks them a question in Maryland. Have you seen them together before serving them? And both the adult says, no, we have not seen them together for a night. That's the time the judge reads everything in the order, then he submits to both the party. In my case, nothing happened. So when I put the motion, after 3 days, my attorney calls me to give me my boxes back. I had given them 22 boxes. I got only 7 boxes, all damaged. My documents were gone. My photographs were gone. And then I don't have a ruling order because I did not want divorce. And my husband started everything with my attorney when I didn't retain him. Coming to the point when I got that order from the clerk, the second time, of course, they denied my motion. So I'm filing the same thing with another exhibits. I mean, motions, arguments. That's the time when they took my second motion, they gave me a ruling order with a stamp. There is no signature. There is a date, but there is no signature by the judge. That's where my question comes.
It needs to have a signature by a judge. If it does not have a signature by a judge, it is not legitimate. It has to be signed by the judge who oversees it, because a judge has the final ruling. If there's no judge's signature on it, let's just put it the easy way. You might as well take it and burn it because it don't stand up. It has to have that judge's signature on it. Because if it don't have a judge's signature, anybody could have wrote it.
That's what I said, that this is the rubber stamp. I want to meet my ruling judge, and then I was not allowed till today not to speak with my judge. That's okay. I'm still safe because I don't want my husband to say I had an ex parte communication with the judge. That is good. But now in this question, in between, I put everything, all appeals with the appeal courts, with the federal courts, with the Supreme Court, everything in timely manner. And I still don't have a divorce certificate with me today when I'm talking in this meeting. I don't have a divorce certificate, the one I have seen in other cases in Maryland. And in no time, my husband is married to another woman who he was sitting on my back. I knew that, but I didn't have a photo. And you know what? Judge asked me in the live court. My friend has heard it, my best friend. Judge asked me, have you seen them doing the sex? This is the sentence judge asked me to prove that he was cheating on me. Who is going to show? Tell me, are you going to call your spouse when you're cheating during the marriage that I'm doing the sex with the another person? And I have to show that to judge. But this question is not there in my transcript. When I ordered the transcript.
Okay, well, as far as your divorce goes, I mean, that is your knowledge. That's your right to know, and you should have a copy of that. They can't deny your rights. They might try to, just like family courts will. They'll try to deny you your record, but that is your right. If you have to file it under the Right to Know Act, you have a right to know anything in pertaining to you or any case if you are involved in it. If you don't have something signed by a judge stating that this is what it is, it's hearsay. Hearsay is not municipal in the court of law. Just like any time there proposes a doubt, it can't be used in the court of law.
So, when I'm putting all these arguments, including this, that I'm still not divorced, I got one hearing when my husband actually wanted to leave USA to go to India to meet his girlfriend and marry her. That's the time I got one hearing because he asked to the judge. And judge got because I had rescued my judge. My judge cannot come. I had 3 judges. None of them come. So they got mental health judge from the juvenile center to sit on my case. And when I asked him 4 questions, he could not answer anything. And he said, you need hearing with your ruling order. I do not have any paperwork from that. And the day of the hearing in November 2015, when I appeared with my boys and his friend, whom I had subpoenaed, there was no hearing on the computer. So I had to leave the court building because there was no hearing. And since then, I have no ruling order, I have nothing. And my husband told everybody here in my community, my boys, his family, that we are divorced on the basis of the ruling order. The one which was signed, and I had motion to quash it and give me the new trial.
Laurissa also wanted to say something regarding this, and Laurissa, are you still there? I want to allow everybody a chance to speak on this because this is important. Parents need to know. Laurissa, are you still with us?
Okay, y'all. Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
That's all right.
Yes. Oh my goodness, y'all. I have just been soaking up all of this, and just to start, y'all are so correct. Y'all have already informed yourself. Typically, we know what's not working. We know what needs to be changed. And yes, a judge is supposed to sign every single order. If a judge does not sign it, not their clerk, not the administrator, but an actual judge has to sign it. Other than that, it's not legal. A rubber stamp is not going to do. No, not when it comes to, especially not to a final order. In the right of or in the process of having due process. Okay, under the constitutional rights and the supreme law, you have the right to have a fair hearing, a fair trial before a court makes their decision. Now, another thing is, should no freaking social worker be making a recommendation, especially to change the recommendation from reunification to any other plan without having a proper family team meeting or a planning meeting where the parents are involved and where the task and goals are negotiated and agreed upon by everyone. It's not a dictatorship. That is not the way that that is supposed to go. And you're supposed to be able to change your mind. And what I like to point out and what I would like to do when I coach parents is just, you not only have to know and protect your rights, but you have to know how to protect and defend your character in this, because that's where the problem is the underlying. They think they think a lot of times more conservatively than you do, or they come from different backgrounds or cultures, or they did things a certain way in their household or in experiences, or maybe they have some kind of bias because they grew up as somebody who was abused before. Okay, but not all people are the same, and we have to get rid of the stigmatisms that are behind, people with mental illnesses or either substance abuse, or they use alternative medicine or treatment. Like, people have the right and the ability to fix their own situations, not have somebody to tell them what to do, like they're the experts of them. People are the experts of themselves.
Correct.
So we need to give power back to the people, back to the parents. Okay, because probably 90% of the cases that I was on, and like I said, I worked to prevent the removal of children. I was an investigator. I was assigned to special cases. Mostly, I was assigned to deal with cases where children had been maltreated or abused while in custody, which goes on a lot. Okay, so I was sent in a lot to, like I say, investigate things like that. But I was really big on big on prevention and explaining the details, what the rights and responsibilities are before I even come in. And if a parent, provoke their rights, guess what? I was just turning myself right on back around, unless it was a life-threatening issue that I was, that was going on right now. You know what I'm saying? Or, a life-threatening issue to the, you know, to the child that could affect the long-term health of something. Anything else, all you do as a social worker, you can challenge not only the referral, but you can challenge the findings. And if a parent doesn't want to talk to you, you can't force that parent to talk with you or agree with what you say or even what you recommend. And that's okay to do that. And they need to be okay with having their little ego bruised or whatever it is when a parent says, when a parent says no, or is we're trying to protect their rights. But it's this power struggle that we're dealing with. So it's great that we know what to do when it comes to our rights, with forming a collective united front against them. And there are some foundations. I know they worked with us in Mississippi, and we was like really, really big on best practice. Like that was our whole training. That's why I was just kind of floored when I got into working for myself and seeing just how massive the corruption was in other states and other cities. And people are not getting their children back, and even when they do file grievances or appeals, or the people who are supposed to be handling these to investigate these matters, they're not doing their job either. So now we're stuck without power. So just like they came together years ago for the best interest of the children, but now we need something for the best interest of the parents, who are now defenseless, and they're losing their children left and right, just unnecessarily, just completely unnecessarily. Probably about 90% of the cases, I can honestly say, as a specialized investigator, I would not have removed. Period, point blank. Most of the ones that I've heard here tonight, if no evidence, that means no evidence. It's not up to me to say, well, because you got upset with me, or because you cursed at me, or because you cried, so now we think you're depressed and you need some help. That's not my job or my right to assert that on somebody else. That's not theirs either. So social workers don't have degrees. They're not the medical experts. They're not mental health experts. They're not even educational experts. So they have to stay, within the role that that they've been given, if we're going to get back to service again. Now, I don't ever see myself going back into the child welfare system, but I like to help the foundations who, I know if y'all heard of the Casey Foundation, but they were,
Yes.
they were the ones who came in through Mississippi, and what they saw was cases, that the reunification, the rates of reunification had increased like never before, when they had when they had advocates and strategic, and they had consultations within the child welfare system. So people like really, really monitoring, and it was very intense. And I don't know, I soaked all of that up because I loved it, because I always knew that I wanted to go into training, and people that I train, I taught them according to best practice. Do not go up in people's houses like you own them. Do not go up in there labeling them or discriminating against them. Check your own biases, because it is true that we all have them, but check your own biases. Is this leading to a good one that's going to benefit this parent and this child? Is there a real threat to danger, for this child? So they really, really got to be shaken, get out of this, survival mode that they're in, that this is just a job. This is more than job. It was supposed to be a mission. Okay. So like you said, wasn't really, it didn't start with social workers getting paid. They were doing it, they was doing it as a charity, before the government or whatever, came in and, set order to everything. So yeah, my honest opinion, just we have to get back to that and know what we're fighting against, and know what we have to defend. The biggest struggle that I see right now is it's like there are no attorneys who want to take on CPS cases because they don't know how to defend them. They don't know how, to get their evidence across, and they're too, afraid of pissing the judge off. Well, we don't need people like that. We need people who are more aggressive, who can state their case and do what is right, by these families. So that's a big area.
Thank you, Laurissa, and Thomas. Yes, you have the floor now.
It's not, I wanted to just say something to Laurissa as far as it's not a matter of an attorney wanting to do, but then again it is. See, the problem is an attorney can't attack them one-on-one, because the first thing they're going to try to is bar them off the Attorney Bar Association. So that's where a lot of the scare is. The best bet in action for that is a law firm that has more than one attorneys. But then again, like you said, the problem is they don't want to do the work. They don't want to, I guess you can say, make them mad. Prime example with my attorneys, both of my attorneys, the one they appointed me and my private attorney, were both public defenders for the county. So they didn't want to piss them off in my case and lose being a public defender for them on the hand. The problem is that a lot of them are doing private attorney service and public defenders. You can't do them both. It has to be one or the other. And that's where the lion issue is. And really, you made the comment about it's not even us parents taking the power back. It's taking the power back from a system that failed itself.
True. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The system has failed thousands of kids. I'm one that they tried failing me. They told me that I was going to end up in jail within a year out and all this. The system is garbage. Mm-hmm. I will be the first to do it, and I'll be the first to tell somebody to call me on it, because I'll argue with you till I'm blue in the face. The system failed itself as well as it's failed several thousands of families.
It's so true, Thomas. I agree completely. And I do think that it's a great intimidation game, even when parents are supposed to have legal representation or qualified legal representation. It's like there is nobody, standing up, and addressing this to the people that need to hear it, recognize it, or be educated and be kind of moved to do things differently in the way that they have court, in the way that they have these hearings, in the way that parents' rights are being respected and upheld. That innocent until proven guilty thing. They're not seeing.
Yeah,
they're not. No, and the lawyers.
No, we're guilty.
And the lawyers feel just as intimidated about the parent, not about the parents, but about the court system too. Why? Because this is an economic society. Well, you have to have some kind of money or income or something. If money is a factor, then more than likely they're not going to be the best advocate for you if they have a force over them that they're advocating against, that could in an instant sever that.
Correct.
So now they're looking at survival.
Exactly. And here's another thing I thought, and this is one thing that I'm sure everybody can agree upon. First off, money is the root to all evil. We all know that this is why they do it. And I do it all the time to them. Like I said, I'm still fighting for my kids now. But they say they do is in the best interest of the children. No, but they do. Okay, if it's in the best interest of the children, why do you workers make an average of $15 to $19 an hour? In my county, they're making $19 an hour. Why are you getting funding from the state for every child instead of, and before you even do a full and thorough investigation, like my case was never investigated, why do you insist on taking the children away from the parent? How is that in the best interest of the child when you're taking them from somebody they know? The emotional abuse is a major factor right there. Why don't we take this money that they're getting and stop this government to invest services to put between the children and the family to keep them in the home?
Repeal and replace is one of the things we talk about here on the Parent Advocate Network as well. And what we want to talk about with that is that Title IV D and E specifically provide funding for foster care and adoptive care placement. This is 3 times as much money going to foster and adoptive care placement as is going to help parents and families stay together. This is where we can talk about things like
$3,000.
Yeah, it's enormous, and I talked about it before. There's some other issues we talk about as well, but some of them are now what the Family Rights Party is working on, and we are about to be nationally recognized as a general committee. And when we get that paperwork done, we are looking for delegates for each state to start organizing and helping us on the state-by-state level. So that's one thing.
You got me in Pennsylvania.
Amen. Now Maria has risen her hand, and so I'm going to unmute, I'm going to unmute her. Hi, Maria. You had your
hand.
Hi.
Yes. Can you hear me good?
A little bit, yeah. Good.
Okay, I'm hoping so. Well, I don't want to sound like...
Uh-oh, you just cut out. Oh, no.
I'm like playing the word game or anything. I want to correct one thing, Thomas, and please don't think... Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that we actually have, an exchange, because before then we had to exchange, different items or trade. I mean, it's awesome in a way that we have money as our means to exchange. If not, it'd be like, I can clean your house or you can cut my hair, and we would just trade our services to each other. I mean, it's cool that we have that. We can put a dollar amount on, certain items, and we have that base and stuff. It's not money that's evil. It's the love of money that's evil. When people love money more than they love people, then something's wrong. And that's what
the root to all evil.
Yeah,
so
it's
Dale,
the root of all evil. But money's not evil.
Sorry.
No, I want to bring Dale in at this point because Dale and I are working on a project that is in line with helping families stay together. And Dale, are you still there? Hello.
Dale's awesome.
He's a great man to be here. All of you are great and wonderful people. We're talking about some really important issues, and hopefully parents out there who listen to our conversations will get some ideas and be able to go forward in their fight for their own families and for families all over the place. But Dale, are you there? Hello.
Lyra.
Yes.
Just
Thomas.
before Dale hops on quick. Just to let you know as well, there is going to be, I've noticed since I've been involved with it all, that there is more organizations coming through. We do have another one as well starting in Pennsylvania. As soon as we get everything all settled legal-wise, there'll be another one coming to join along with all of us.
That's wonderful. We want the whole point of the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families is to provide parents with a list of different groups across the country and across the world that truly do help parents and families stay together, be reunified. There's other organizations we're starting to connect with. We want to be able to provide services for elderly. There are some community groups that have been created, such as the Neighborhood for the Elderly. I mean, this is the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families. We're talking about not just the children, not just the parents, but the entire family unit, because right now our world, humanity, has been attacked everywhere. Families are being torn apart, ripped apart, instead of education to provide for nonviolent communication, peaceful resolution, family, positive lifestyles, living, in harmony with each other, and being able to create good and healthy relations in the family. That's not happening right now. The exact opposite is happening, and it's so sad. And Dale, are you there? Nope, still off.
I don't know.
That's okay.
But I think he's still off. But you know what I tell everybody? And my famous motto is, and it's copyrighted, so nobody can take it. So I guess I'll just break it to you guys first. We didn't want to do it.
We respect copyright information. We are totally for you and your self-expression. Go for it.
Anybody, when it comes out, as far as I've been doing it, there is no true love out there. And here it is, quote, my thing is family love never ends. That's where the love is, nowhere else.
Well, we are.
So when that comes out, there you go. That's what it's going to be.
Amen. And family is, if you think about it, we are all technically only 7 people removed from anyone else that we know in existence. 7 people. Okay, so in the grander scheme of things, we are all one family here. And, I keep on talking about this everywhere I go. It's, let's work together because we're all in this together. Let's share, let's care, and bring back the communities, build those communities, and bring back the sustainability. And like Maria was saying, before there was money, there was trade. Even today, there are still people who barter and trade, and money is not the object of concern. And, as long as we love things and use people, it doesn't matter.
Dale's back.
And Dale's back. Yay!
That's what I just said. Dale's back.
It's all about turning back to loving people and using things. That's what we're here, to help promote and help bring family connections back together. Not arguing, not plagiarizing, not stealing other people's ideas and information. This is about sharing, caring, and being able to recognize each other in this great injustice and fight that we are fighting right now. And God bless you all. Ms. Lucy, you have risen your hand. Would you like to say something?
I just want to know, is the people that's in this group, is everybody children been gone for like a year or more?
Mine have been, but not everybody.
Or they've been gone for, quite some, like 6 months or whatever.
Yeah, 6 months.
Dale doesn't have any children in the system right now, and he is here to provide some information and guidance from his own experiences and what he's been working on and helping the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families and putting together for parents and families all over. And Dale, the reason I wanted you to join in is because a little bit earlier Maria was talking about the times of barter and trade, and we were starting to talk a little bit about the alternatives that you and I and others are developing right now. And I wanted to know if you'd like to add a little something on that subject. Hold on, your volume is not on. I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on.
Go to your, Dale, go to your, at the bottom. Are you on a phone or a computer?
He's on a computer.
Computer? Oh, no, you just muted yourself. Because on my phone, like I had to actually like go to the where the bottom bar is and I have to touch it to make it bring it up and unmute it that way.
There's also that arrow that's next to the speaker that has the option of microphone, USB headset. You can click on that because I know that you're on headphones. Sometimes that works. I don't know. Oh my. Well,
is he plugged in?
So Southern.
We gotta have Dale.
Is there somebody here from Southern Georgia? I'm not sure I recall that correctly.
Why would you need Lyra?
I'm in Florida.
Okay, well, Randall was talking about looking for an advocate in Georgia, and so that's why I'm asking about that. So one
If you
yes, no, go.
If you want to get him, go ahead.
I was just going to say that for all of you who are here tonight and who, you know, who want to get connected, we have a page. It's actually an album on Facebook that I provided for everybody, and I'm going to share it with you all now if it comes up. But so the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families has created an album for state-by-state connections. So each state members, parents in a state can put their name on under the flag that I provide for your state and connect with other parents in your neighborhood. This is to bring parents together. You know, even if you're an advocate, that all you can do is show up to a court hearing with another parent who's going through what you've already experienced or are experiencing. That is a wonderful, wonderful thing you can do for that parent. That is being a parent advocate. And we need more and more parents going and standing up with other parents who are dealing with family rights violations. And this here is the page that I have set up on the Facebook site. And so we have state-by-state flags. Parents can add their name under the flag that it correlates with your state. And then I have also been putting together a country-by-country advocacy album as well, because there are, of course, parents all over the world that are dealing with human rights violations and parental rights violations. And everybody deserves the opportunity to know and connect with other parents who are dealing with these family rights violations and need that extra support. We're all here to support each other. And so please, whenever you get a chance, put your name on, put it on your page even if you want to, and bring people in your area together. We want to have connections in state by state for all of the different programs that are starting to be created, whether it be the Family Rights Party or civil rights violations litigation, or, you know, all kinds of things. So please, please do put your name there. Thomas, you have your hand raised. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, well, I just caught what you said. No, it's just a suggestion, or maybe I'm not understanding with the whole flag thing. And I think Dale, I can hear him now.
Okay,
But,
can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can, Dale.
Okay, I was, you know, fighting some kind of a.
They don't want you to talk, Dale.
Yeah. Well, listen.
But anyway,
wait.
I want to, you know, my experience happened back in the 70s with Children's Services, and it was a case where their mother was ill as a result of a accident and so on. And I called Child Services to the home and said she's not capable of taking care of the children. You know, she basically was in a semi-catatonic state induced by not taking her medication for seizures and then alcohol. Okay, and so I had to go to work, and my experience was she said, well, we can't do anything for, you know, we can't take her take care of her because she hasn't done anything. In other words, this was when they released all the people in the mental institutions were let out because the law was convenient and they were trying to save money. It was a budget issue. So the horrific thing that I had experienced was this went on for a couple of years, and she ended up stabbing the kids. Then the kids were put in foster homes. You know, so mine was a case of neglect rather than illegal intervention. You know, if they had done something for her, that could have been prevented. So now my position now is to work to create habitat for those families who are stressed, so they don't have to get into the court system. You know, and whether it's financial, emotional, psychological, whatever the case may be, you know, there should be a support system that says, okay, well, you don't have to worry, you know, because at some point in time, people become unemployable. Well, they still have children. You know, maybe their job disappeared as a result of technology, or what have you,
or climate change,
or maybe their job was outsourced to China, and here they are with family and kids, and they're not, you know, they're not equipped to or innovative, or they don't have the ability to adapt to a quick change, and then you know the abuse comes, the alcoholism comes, the substance abuse, and then it just a cycle, and then if they were just given a process where they could get themselves retrained and they have a place where they can relax, they don't have to worry about struggling to make a buck to pay the light bill or the food bill or take care of the kids, and you know, where the state comes in and they see a situation where we can't leave the kids here, we'll just take possession of them. And I think so. This is an empathetic act where you're concerned for others. We can create the circumstance so these families can stay together. And there's the Ariel Foundation that was started by a man in where the school where all the kids were slaughtered, and he's working with scientists. It's called the Ariel Foundation, ARIELLE, and they're trying to get violence declared as a disease because it's actually a condition of a lack of empathy in people's brain structure, and that's not normal. And that lack of empathy and concern for others is what leads people to resort to violence. And so they've got brain researchers right now that are saying that psychopathy, the lack of empathy, the lack of concern for others, is a disease. So when you declare it that way, then we start talking about treatments. And there are interventions that you can do to change behavior. And this is particularly when you talk about spousal abuse, any type of violence. If violence itself gets identified as a disease, and then there's a curative aspect where you can treat it. It's treatable.
But there is no excuse for abuse. We want to make that very clear.
It's not an excuse.
We're not trying
to. Unless it's treated like a sickness, then you have all these punitive measures taken. But I'm talking even on a national state level, an international state level. When a government resorts to violence, that's a sickness, okay? Because there's a way to resolve conflict resolution without resorting to violence, and there's no alternative now. There's no case where a habitat is set up and a program is in place where a family can be taken in, and the children and the protected and the spouse protected, and then a treatment facility somewhere else for the perpetrator of violence. And a lot of times this process of violence takes place over time, and that's the only way that person has to act out emotionally, is the only thing they know. So they haven't been, at some point in that child's life, that person's life, there's been a serious neglect. They haven't had the nurturing and the training and the connection to develop that empathetic aspect in their brain. And so it truly is a brain problem. It's a brain disease. And that's where this parent of this kid that was Ariel, who was slaughtered, it was Sandy Hook. That was the school, up in the East Coast. So I really think that focusing on violence and declaring it a disease, and then we can look for treatments and take an empathetic action, protecting the kids in the family and the mother, and also but treating the abuser, with the right attitude. Like he has a flu. There's something in his brain that needs to be connected. There's an empathetic aspect that's not functioning. The lack of concern for others has to be uppermost in somebody's mind before they can be a parent, before they can be an adult, before they can be a citizen. And there's a lot of this. There's a lot of this sickness around, resorting to violence, and so it's a diseased society.
It is. It
Okay.
is definitely. It's a broken system. We exist in a broken system.
Yeah.
We're talking about creating a new system that actually works to replace that which is broken. And now Thomas has risen his hand. So Thomas, for a few minutes to respond, and then Maria, you will then also have a few minutes to respond, okay? Thomas, you first.
Yes. Dale, just to clarify, I know you said something, and I know I wanted to ask a while, but I didn't want to offend you at the same time. But you mentioned about to treat an offender. My question for you is, as far as what do you mean treat an offender? if you got an abuser in a situation, either abusing a child, else, anything like that,
The most stark example, the most real example that I could go to is I could go to South Africa, where Bishop Tutu and President Mandela, the tribes in Africa literally wanted to wipe out the Africans off the face of the earth. That was the hatred, the bitterness, the anger, and the resentment for the horrific, catastrophic torture and abuse and murder of blacks. And Bishop Tutu came up and said, no, the act of forgiveness, okay, has to be exemplified in our behavior. What happened in South Africa is all those Africans, soldiers that were guilty of criminal acts against the people, had to sit with those families and ask for those families' forgiveness. Okay, that was an act of forgiveness and reconciliation and restoration and resurrection. And so that's a process. If you've been injured by somebody, that process, instead of anger, bitterness, resentment, hatred, and revenge, it's through that forgiveness we're healed. Because as long as we carry that hatred and anger around with us, we still got the sickness.
And that's what attracts other hatred and anger. See, like attracts hate, like attracts like. So hate attracts hate. Love attracts love. Granted, I've been a victim of domestic violence, and I am now a veteran of domestic violence, and I will not put myself in a position to be a victim of domestic violence ever again. And as much as I wanted to trust or believe the abuser was actually sorry, I have to protect myself to ensure that I don't get abused again, protecting myself by also taking my own power of love and understanding and compassion and just moving forward with that, acknowledging that this person is not safe for me and I do not need this person in my life, and this person needs to have some help with the issues of not being able to. This is about the fight or flight response that humanity as a whole is afflicted with. Okay, it doesn't matter. Yes, it's horrible what some abusers have done to parents and to children and to families, and the judicial abuse. And I mean, we could go on. I am. Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot loud and clear.
Okay. Sorry about that. But I want to let Maria speak because she did have her hand raised earlier, and I just wanted to put that little 2 cents of mine in for this part of
But what I wanted to... But I guess my question before she comes on real quick is still what helped me understand, Dale, is you're not promoting, like, if somebody abuses a child, to put them back into the situation. That's not what you're getting at, correct?
No, I'm saying it's a possibility over time that if this person gets to the point where the family wants to stay together, and particularly the parent, the mother, and
or the victim,
or and the kids,
the case may be.
Because the kids may say, I under no circumstances. But if there's a process and a program where the whole family is healed, including the abuser, and they can be restored to fullness, that's forgiveness. Now you don't take somebody that's abusing kids and parents and put them right together. I'm saying there has to be a process for the abuser to be forgiven and for him to be restored. Okay.
Well, and for him to also be able to pass the courses of nonviolent communication and
anger management. Oh, this
rehabilitation. This is an extreme process, but you know, in science, in the National Medical Society has already come out repeatedly with articles stating that a child needs to have contact even with the abusive parent in their life, and especially if that parent shows attrition, shows a level of understanding that what they did was wrong. It does not mean that that child ever would live with that abusive parent again. It just means that that child has a right to have both parents in their life, no matter what, unless that one of those parents is a murderer, a mass murderer, then we're like, wait a minute here, let's not go there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not advocating. I'm advocating restoration, but that is a process over time. Okay, we're not just saying throw these people back together. Absolutely not. But there is a
okay. That's just what I wanted clarification, Dale.
Yeah, there's a pathway for restoration.
Possible.
Yes.
So now Maria.
Thanks, Dale.
Maria has waited quite a long time, and I want to give her a chance to speak. Maria, are you still with us?
Oh, thank you. Yes, and no, but that all kind of ties in with what I was saying.
You're cutting out a bit there, Maria.
Was
there you go.
Because when Dale's caused by the stuff that you still might be now. Oh,
we can hear you better now. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. I was saying, of course I have anger problems. They stole my children and I'm angry. Like, don't make me angry and I won't be angry. But with all the research and all the studies that they do and all the crap, you know, whatever that they're trying to get you on meds and everything for, I'm like the mind heals itself, and I think you're kind of leading towards that, Lyra, but they're able to let go and forgive and forget, and our minds are constant. We have 100 billion brain cells, and about 400 million of those die and are born every day. Your mind is constantly renewing itself, like literally physically constantly being renewed, and it depends on where you're focusing at. And if you're focusing on that anger and that bitterness, of course your chemicals of your body, your makeup is going to lead towards that. But if you're focusing on the forgiveness and moving forward and growth, then you're able to grow and become new. But you know, it's there's so many things that tie into that, but meditation and prayer and, you know, that whole fight or flight kind of thing, you know, that's how we deal with things. Some people get caught in, and we respond in all of those patterns, you know. Sometimes we just freeze and we're just kind of, I call it stuck on stupid, you know, and we don't even know what to do. But sometimes we run to whatever, you know, to try to, whether it be drugs or whether it be sex or whether it be, you know, whatever, retail therapy, whatever it is that kind of like distracts you from the pain that you're feeling. And some people like get in fight mode, you know, and that's just our natural responses to the situations that life hands us sometimes. And you don't always cognitively choose that. Sometimes you just react and you don't even, you know, do it deliberately. But it makes me so angry, you know, that they do these studies and they want to prescribe medication for it when your body can naturally heal itself if you just give it the time to.
That's right, Maria, and I want to just invite you all to check out the Akashic School of Reiki. I offer free Reiki attunements and meditations.
I'm off my little soapbox.
I have a group that is dedicated to healing, meditation, and self-care. It is very important, parents, all parents, but most especially parents who are being torn apart by this terrible system, that you take care of time for self-care, whether it be walking in the forest once a day or reading a nice book that's going to give you good feelings. Because again, it's what we think and it's what we attract. So when we think angry thoughts, we're going to attract anger and negative people and situations. And we also at Earth Soul Ministries talk about the law of attraction and how people can start creating wheels of manifestation and start bringing positive things into your life. I mean, there's just so much that we can talk about for retraining the brain, and there's so many topics. Oh my! But I'm glad to hear that you have some knowledge of that as well, Maria. And I invite you, all of you, to join in our conversations. We have them on Tuesdays at originally it was noon, but it might be a little later. And you can learn more about that at the Akashic School of Records.
I wanted to mention this. I don't know if I mentioned it last week. Another example is Rwanda, and they went down the rabbit hole in a tribal conflict, and 800,000 people were slaughtered with machetes in 90 days. And what it was, when you lose the ability to think, that's when evil happens. So now today, it's like in the darkest events, some of the most magnificent things happen. Right now today in Rwanda, 60% of the parliament are women. Women are going through a transition in Rwanda. It's a miracle because they're leaders in business, they're leaders in government. Their whole society has established equilibrium, and they're wholly against violence, whereas before they were blinded by it, and the government had no choice. They had to put the women in positions of responsibility and give them preference because the men, so many men were slaughtered, 1/7 of their population. So here is a horrific event and an evil that was turned to an ultimate good. And it's really an example to the world of how equity and the equity between gender, having women being treated equally, it is a reality. How they got there was just horrific. But the result, there was an article in the San Francisco Chronicle Sunday, the 14th of January, that said this miracle of technology is happening, and so the best is yet to come. So we have to turn this, look for the opportunity in the darkness. Okay, because that's really where it is, and don't get discouraged. But
we are the light in the darkness here. We are.
Absolutely, Dale, and it's good. It's good to know that somebody else believes and the same way I do, and has the same authority and the same feel that I do with the whole thing with any individual woman. I'm a firm believer that if a man can do a job, and a woman can do it, a woman should be given the same opportunity. You know what? Women go through more hell and bullcrap than we do. You ask me to go through labor. Do you think I'm going to be able to do it? Heck no. Women do a heck of a lot more, and their way of resorting to resolve things are more how can I say, more the appropriate way to do it, where men and us, our options and we want to fight. Women, they want to resort with the least amount of harm to anybody.
Well, this is what happened. This is what the president of Rwanda said. He said women are less likely to go into conflict and slaughter each other.
Correct.
You know, and if the truth be known, the women a lot of times look at men like children that need to be just taken care of, because they're not fully adult in the sense, you know, in the sense that how they act a lot of times.
Correct.
You know.
Correct. You're right.
If women acted like men, the human race would be extinct.
Oh yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Miss Lucy, you have your hand raised. Would you like to say something?
I was trying to see Dale. He's the group that he's trying to create is is to basically regroup people mentally to basically bond. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying we have to change ourselves internally with
Right.
this sickness, and Lyra alluded to it. The simple thing is we've got to stop loving things and using people, and loving people and using things, period. That's a 180-degree shift from where we are now as a culture and a society. Look at North Korea and our president.
Turn that TV off down there.
Look at our president and the North Korean president. President Trump actually threatened to annihilate the whole North Korean race, okay, to impose his will on those people, and he wasn't being silly. He talks about well, why do we have nuclear arms if we can't use them? And so I don't take those as idle threats. It's just the sickness being taken to an extreme level by a world leader. So
and I think that's might be where I think it's abuse of power again is what it is, Dale. Maybe that's what you're trying to say.
Yep, that is absolutely what it is. And Dale muted himself. So.
I was going to say he muted himself.
Yeah. Well, no. In response, it's part of this sickness. It's part of the sickness of violence. And so, in order, we've been praying for let there be peace on earth as it is in heaven for thousands and thousands of years. And we understand, we hear the words, love thy enemy. We hear the words, love thy neighbor as thyself. But when it comes down to action, we abuse, use, kill, and destroy people instead of sitting down and trying to really settle our differences and treat each other equally. We got this idea of power and control is supreme over everything. And Voltaire said it eloquently. He's a French philosopher. He said, there is no greater evil than a belief that is declared supreme and therefore claims for itself the right to kill. And it's just like the state in the minority communities. They have rule of law, eminent domain, and deadly force. And so these policemen are meting out justice in the street because we have a rule of law. So the rule of law is barbaric, okay, and because that's how we eventually. If you don't like it, it's my way or the highway. But for you, it's my way or it's the morgue, okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is where the violence is a sickness. It's a sickness that permeates the whole world.
Yep, and we want to talk about changing the narrative here. Totally 180-degree shift, changing the narrative.
Dale for president. Let's do it.
So, but okay.
This is the thing. Leadership. We have to learn that leadership is the highest idea, and it can come from a 5-year-old kid or a 70-year-old man or a woman. So we're trying to discover what's best for everybody, and the demons that we fight should be inside of ourselves. It's a private battle, like Gandhi said. That's where I conduct all my wars, with myself, and overcoming myself, and overcoming my weaknesses and my mortality. And saying, well, gee, that's not, and just doing an honest evaluation of who you are, what you are, where you're going, and why. And so, it's this is a huge change, and it starts with John Lennon's song "Imagination," because what imagination allows that creativity and to come to the surface, where we start finding the alternatives to create this world. We have to create it out of our imagination. It doesn't exist, and if we want a new way of life, we all have to create it together, and that should be our focus. Build it.
That's right.
Build it.
Now, I would like to say,
go for it.
I understand. I mean, I understand exactly where you're coming from, but first people have to know that they have issues to be able to accept the help that you want to give to them.
You're right. Yep.
Because you have people that's out here that for years, because nobody expressed that they love them, like them, or even acknowledge them, period, in any type of way. So, like what you were saying, you had to get out your name is
Lyra.
Lyra. Like you were saying, you had to remove yourself from an abusive relationship, and whether you forgave him or not, or he apologized or not. Okay, say if he did apologize, of course I know you wouldn't just let him come back in, but do you think it'll happen again later? Because they always say, well, I'm sorry, and it won't happen again. And it eventually, if it don't happen within that year, it eventually happen again.
All right. So that's
go ahead.
That's a very good question, and my response is this. My forgiveness is totally unrelated to whether or not that abuser has apologized. Okay? My forgiveness is so that I don't carry the weight and the anger around with me. And I can straight up forgive the abuser face to face. And it is up to that abuser whether or not they're going to recognize that. And I know that, but not everybody does. And it is not like we can't fix anybody. We can only offer the tools for that person to fix themselves or to change their mode of operandi. All we can do is give them the tools and the allowance for them to be able to heal, for them to be able to recognize and understand and contend with their own demons, like Dale is saying.
Well, okay, you forgive them. Okay, so you're able to help yourself, which that's a plus. But sometimes the people that does the things, sometimes they can't even tell you why So how would it be that they recognize that you're giving them tools is what I'm saying. And we
I
have these
understand
type
that.
of people that's just walking around. We have these type of people walking around every day. So when you are forming a group to regroup people mentally, like you're gonna have to divide them because you have some that's slick and want to be in a group just to know. You have some that wants to help. You have some who don't think they need help, but they're just gonna take the help. And then it can just continue on like that. To me, what I've learned, I'm gonna say out of this whole situation.
Right.
I probably didn't know I had as many emotions that CPS can attack. So what I had to learn to do was like this one thing that I did recognize. It's not that I don't like you per se. I don't like your job. That's their job. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That's how I had to separate myself. I don't know about anyone else. Like I just had a worker. We were supposed to have a meeting on a Friday, but she ended up getting sick. So, like I said, I don't like her job, but I really don't know her. I told her, I said, you know what? That's okay. Whatever it is that I need, I'll contact somebody else. You just get yourself better. And that's to better myself.
But actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, and I wanted to interject this thought that if you approach violence like if somebody is violent in nature and behavior, if you approach it like a disease, like a Ebola, that the violence spreads. So what you want to do is do everything you can to not neglect it and not excuse it, but treat it as something that really has to be treated as a disease, you know, and a dangerous disease. Because if one guy's violent and then he infects somebody else and then they become violent and then all of a sudden
we have a war on our hands.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or more horrific, we've got a Germany and the whole country becomes violent. It's infectious, and it's
no one did the situation.
And it's so what we have to do is, and this is the first time that I saw in print in the National Geographic that these brain doctors are declaring psychopathy and some violence and violence itself a disease. You know, by losing the ability to think and reacting emotionally.
Losing the ability to have emotion.
Yes, and well, to have empathy. Yeah, the lack of empathy, a lack of concern for others, and when that goes out the window, you lose everything. You lose civilization.
All right, now hold on. I know everybody wants to talk all at once, but Maria has risen her hand and has been waiting patiently again. So if we could give her a chance to speak. Maria, hello.
I feel kind of bad though. Are you there?
Yep. I
feel kind of bad though because I don't really want to backpedal, but I did want to just kind of clarify because I don't really follow the news. Forgive the backpedal in the conversation. But Dale, you had mentioned something about our president saying about, I know North Korea has been pretty violent, and I know there's been stuff with nuclear stuff going on, and I know Trump is a pretty outspoken kind of guy.
Well,
but
if you remember, if you watched the rallies during the election, he actually got up and said it to a demonstrator, "Oh, I'd like to punch that guy in the face." And
I remember.
It wasn't 5 or 10 minutes or a couple days later that this old man saw a black protester in the crowd, and he actually reached out and punched him in the face. And then Trump said, "I'll pay for your. Don't worry about it. I'll pay for your legal fees. I'll defend you for being violent." Okay, and he made reference many times. he said, well, I don't know what my Second Amendment people are going to do that. So he was inciting violence. And violent acts took place as a result of his example, that he not only justified it, but he said it's an alternative. If we don't get what we want, we'll get violent. And the Breitbarts and the Nazi Party, he said, there are good people. Okay, there's nothing good about violence. Period. Everybody loses. So, the perpetrator and advocator of violence in chief, is sitting in the Oval Office, and he's got a nuclear button, and he threatened a world leader and a country with annihilation if they didn't do what he wanted. Now, I don't know how you have to characterize sickness, but I think it's prevalent that it's in our air, our water, our land, and the ether, and violence is looked upon as an acceptable alternative to rational thinking and reasoning.
And resolution, peaceful resolution. But we're here to speak about peaceful resolution and, being able to create something that works and discard that broken system and the broken cards that we've been dealt. Maria, you're cutting out again. Can you try to find a better free location? Hold on, let me. We have had a few of the.
Well, I just went all for. I hate it.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
I know. I wish there was. It seems to do whatever it wants. Okay, I was just gonna say I'm all for being. Oh, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep.
This stinking thing.
Go for it.
Okay, I was gonna say I'm completely for peaceful resolution, but on the other hand, if someone comes to attack me violently, or my children or someone I care about, I'm all for defending. My personal belief, like the whole David and Goliath thing, there's a difference between murder of innocent blood, and there's a difference between kind of like self-defense and taking down a bully. I'm all for taking down a bully.
Okay, well then there's still violence in your demeanor. Okay, and what I'm saying, violence is not an option. We don't have a culture that has that values human life and the sacred breath of life over everything else. And that's why Voltaire, when he says that there's no greater evil than a belief that declares itself supreme and therefore claims for itself the right to kill, that's you declaring that your life is more valuable than the person that's attacking you. And so you have
I don't agree with that either, Dale.
Yeah, well, because you're saying I'm supreme, and when Martin Luther King and Gandhi and Chavez and Tutu and Mandela, when they say violence, non-violence, they mean you put your faith in your creator to protect you. And if your life is taken, you go into another place. But it's that act of saying, under no circumstances will I take life.
What if your child is the one that is in danger? This is something that parents will stand straight and strong to. It doesn't have to do with protection.
This is an argument. This is an argument.
My children.
This is an argument that's brought up as a rationale for violence and self-defense. And this was back in at the First Ecumenical Council, when Constantine was Pope. He came up. He was not able to maintain his empire without an army, And so he came up with righteous wars, and which gave the church the capacity to have armies and the Pope to act as a general. And when they went on these missionary conquests, God was on their side when they came over here, slaughtered the enemy, the Indians. And it was on their side when they went into South America and slaughtered, because they were savages and they were evil, and they needed to be cleansed. And so if you justify it on a personal level, you can justify, well, there's a perceived threat that those people mean to do me harm, so I'm going to destroy them first.
But what if it's not a perceived, Dale? What if it's not a perceived threat? What if it's right here? There's somebody with a gun pointed at my son.
Okay, well, my thing is, I go to Mexico. I used to go to Mexico twice a month, and it was very clear: no guns, no drugs. Period. Okay. So if you allow violence and you believe in Second Amendment rights, then you live with all the unintended consequences. We have created a situation where it's rich against poor, blacks against whites, and we've got these polemics. We've created a very toxic condition where violence is those people that are in the underclasses. They think they're justified because they've got to pay the rent and their kids have got to eat. So they go down and put a bullet in somebody's head to get their money, where they got $5 or 10,000, and that's just, they justify that. Okay, so you either you say life is sacred and we don't take it, or violence is okay under certain conditions, and you can't have both. You can't embrace a nonviolent principle and then sit there with your shotgun cocked, ready to blow somebody away if you're violated. And this is a cultural change. This is part of this change that has to take place, that we really love people, and that means all people, even our enemies. Okay? If we're going to have a peaceful world, we've got to really embrace these principles. Now, here, let's just say that Thomas, you said I'd be president. Oh, I'm president. And 9/11, it's a day after 9/11. Okay? Now, my thing is, okay, we got some real nut jobs over there that are dangerous, okay? And so what I do is I go on a program and I take all the kids all over the world with Middle Eastern backgrounds that speak Farsi and Arabic, and I develop an intelligence network working undercover that goes in there in those societies and gets infiltration into these organizations, the Wahhabi schools of violence that have nothing to do with being Muslim, but and like if you look at the old KGB movies in Russia, when they apprehend a suspect, there'll be there's a big crowd of people on the sidewalk. One looks like a plumber, one looks like a businessman, the other one looks like a sanitation worker, and they're all in there. And they all surround the guy that they're trying to get, the bad guy. And they whisk him away, get him in a truck, and he disappears. Okay, what we do is we go over there with 500,000 troops and slaughter innocent women and children and create enemies that puts us in a 16-year war. You know,
it is undeclared.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, if we're going to decide to be nonviolent and create a peaceful, loving culture, we've got to embrace that idea. And another thing is, president, that's how I would handle apprehension and then that person is given a trial, okay, a fair trial. Examples to say you are entitled to jurisprudence, and you have your day in court, and you have the evidence of what you've done. And then instead of spending 100 billion, 800 billion or $1 trillion a year for bombers and cruise missiles, I would get our kids to go all over the world and go in there and help people be self-sufficient help them build their societies, help them build their communication systems, help them build their educational systems, and make friends. Everybody knows how to make friends, you know. But what we've decided to do is, instead of making friends, we decided the most important thing is we destroy our enemies, and so the destruction has become the uppermost in our minds. Not looking at a country like Afghanistan. When we went in there in 2003, do you know what the average per capita income was? 37 cents a day. Okay, and so we go in there with our F-15s, and we declare victor. We're victorious. We won the war, and you know, our GI Joe doll in chief sat on the aircraft carrier and said, "Victory, victory." Well, we're still fighting this war. These people will fight you for 100 years, for 1,000 years, until you get out. Just like parents who've had their children ripped from them, there's this intense animus for the enemy, which in this case is child services, but in that case was a foreign invader that came in unasked, uh, and we, under the auspices of we're a democracy. It's funny because the Chinese leaders were approached by journalists, and they were concerned. Well, what do you think about America just going into Afghanistan like that, and Iraq, and doing all this military stuff? And the elder in the Chinese leadership said, "Oh, that's just America. They're spreading democracy." You know.
Ms. Lucy has got her hand raised, Dale, and
Okay.
I think we're kind of getting off topic, but I'm going to
Well,
let
it's
Ms. Lucy.
violence.
Yes.
It's violence, Missy. I mean, Lyra, and that's really our enemy.
Yep. Well, that's part of the enemy. So, Ms. Lucy, you had something you wanted to say?
Yes, but I wanted to bring what he was saying earlier back to like the people that's CPS. Okay.
What I mean, Lyra, by violence.
Hold on, Dale.
Okay, I wanted to finish that last statement. What the state is doing to children and families is violent.
Yep.
Okay, violence in all its forms, not just physical violence.
Miss Lucy?
Okay, well, I just wanted to basically say, okay, like he was saying, basically, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword, I'm assuming. I know me, just personally, I have not done anything for them to come into my life, and I'm still a humble and a peaceful person. I'm not perfect, so yeah, sometimes I walk a crooked line, but just to somebody that comes and attack me, I don't feel like if I attack back, to as far as like defending myself, that I'm stooping to their level. I feel like I'm protecting my family from the dangers of the wild, because they somehow slipped upon us when our backs was turned, or they just came into our life just out of nowhere. So to say that because they're evil and I end up feeling a certain way upon protecting my family doesn't make me evil as well as them. It just makes me more aware of my enemy, because they come in sheep clothing, like wolves come in sheep clothing. So I'm kind of lost on basically what you were saying.
Ultimately, it's a matter of individual conscience. And, you know, I grew up with, my brother-in-law was president of the chapter of the Hells Angels in Hermosa Beach. He was married to my sister. I grew up in a culture of violence that justified violence. And back in the 70s, I had an experience where I thought I was justified in defending myself. And I literally was at that abyss. And when I kept hitting this guy, and I couldn't stop. And they couldn't stop the bleeding. And I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life behind bars for manslaughter. And I just, at that point, and in anybody's eyes, I would have been justified for defending myself. But the reality is that's when I said, that's it. I said, I'm done. I said, and I just said, I also had an experience where I was starting to get anxious and fearful about the unseen world and demonic possession. And I was thinking to myself, and I said, how do I protect myself from demons? And the truth is, as mortals, we can't. So the only protection I have is my Creator. And my faith is that if my life is taken, and then the best is yet to come. This is just a mortal life. This isn't everything. If you do believe in a life after death, and you believe in eternity, then this mortal life was really nothing. And even Martin Luther King said, I may not get to the mountaintop. He knew his life was in danger, and he had enemies that were going to kill him. He didn't go to the gun cabinet. He went out in the streets and stood up against, and he really didn't become an enemy of the state until after the Civil Rights Act was passed, and he decided that his mission in life was to not only demilitarize the United States, but to demilitarize the whole planet. And that's my position. Violence is a sickness. It's like a anaerobic soil. It's a pathogen, a parasite, a pest, and that needs to be eliminated. Violence has to be eliminated as an option in our minds, in our hearts, in our souls, and everything. And every individual has a conscience. And the World Council of Churches came to the conclusion, they had an edict at their yearly meeting about a decade or so ago. And all the churches agreed that in the final analysis, the authority isn't a church, it isn't a doctrine, it isn't a leader, it's your individual conscience. So everybody Lucy, you have to decide for yourself what your behavior is going to be. And it's between you and the Creator. It has nothing to do with me. So, and that from that act, whatever unintended consequences, I would hazard a guess based on my experience that down the road, maybe even not in this life, that if you did resort to violence and manage to be responsible for taking somebody else's life, that whatever that price is, you don't want to pay it because there are consequences. And the way our law reads, you're responsible to see what's there to be seen. Ignorance is no excuse. I don't know. We won't know what the real consequences for all of our actions as mortals is going to be until we cross that threshold. And I'm 67 years old, and I'm prepared to die right now. In fact, I'm surprised because when I was a kid, I didn't expect to live past 30. I really didn't. And here I am.
And here you are, Dale.
Yeah.
And here we all are. That is quite a tall order to take for all of us. I wish to thank all of you for joining tonight. We've had a wonderful conversation. It kind of went a little tangential. I think from my perspective, Ms. Lucy and other parents, as far as any legal recourse, you're just here to assert your rights. You know, and I think that that is not a violent thing. That is a what is it called?
Asserting.
Yeah, it's self-asserting, and that's we're not saying you shouldn't do that. I think that that's extremely important to do.
To fight for your rights in court and get a judgment, and you know, and get your family back. Absolutely. I don't know if I told you guys, but I was in a protracted lawsuit that took a number of years, and I fought and I struggled and I spent a lot of money, but eventually I won.
So okay? we're not saying don't fight against injustice.
Amen. Amen.
It's about your response within your conscience and what you express and how the law of attraction works. The law of attraction. And I will be sharing a video that we produced last Tuesday about the laws of attraction, and we will be continuing that discussion in future episodes on Tuesdays, and I believe Dale is going to be joining us this coming Tuesday.
Yeah, well, normally I have a Tuesday at 5:30. Is that 7? Is that at 7?
No, it's during the day. We had originally scheduled it for 12, but it's looking more like 3 is a better time for that.
Our time?
Yes.
Okay. Lyra, all I can say is I'll try to make it. But if I can't, I'm always here on Saturday.
That's right, you are. Thank you, okay. Dale. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Maria.
Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thomas. And we had Nidge, and we had Randall. We had wonderful advocates and parents here tonight, and this is
Thomas.
This is just what we want to start seeing happening all the time, is that parents can talk with one another, have civil conversations, and we're talking about solutions not just to the issue of CPS involvement in families' lives. It's parents' rights in divorce courts. It's bringing communities back together. It's elderly's rights, because there's elderly abuse that is happening all over the world as well. And so these are very important to bring here, and this is also a part of Save Humanity. We talk about that as well, because we want to build these communities back up and create systems that work to replace the system that is broken. And so thank you for all of your contributions tonight. And be sure to check in on our Facebook page, the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families. Do sign up under your state flag if you have not already. Let's get these advocacy groups together, state by state. Start helping and supporting parents, truly helping and supporting parents in your area. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you. Good night, y'all.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
You.
Yep.
See you next week, Thomas.
See you next week.
Okay.
Same time.
All right.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.